Let's define the word forgive. In Matthew 6:12, Jesus said, "Forgive us our debts as we also have forgiven our debtors." So the word forgive means to send away, to let go, to keep no longer. And I could describe it like a balloon that we choose to forgive and then we let it go. It also speaks of a cancelled debt, a picture of forgiveness. Every relationship needs forgiveness. It can be, life can mean a meaning of offence, a stumbling block, an impediment to belief or understanding, the obstacle to progress, a cause or occasion of sin. This is a range of understandings that we might use words for. But the root of offence, here's an example. Jesus visited his hometown in Nazareth and he taught in the synagogue, and it says, many who heard him were amazed, but some said, "Who does he think he is?" And they took offence at him, according to Mark 6. So we have a choice when we receive an attack or an offence of somebody who we might choose to be unforgiving. We can choose repayment. It usually involves pain and revenge. It can bring resentment and anger and bitterness and hatred and even rage. Or we can take the path of forgiveness and find freedom. We really have a choice. Let me give you an example. I know some of the folks in this example from some years ago. Visiting speaker in a local church, happened to see a lady in the church who was all gnarled up with arthritis. And the visitor had a word of knowledge from the Lord and spoke to her pastor and then spoke to this woman and her husband, and found out that many years before, this is an older woman, but many years before, her father had molested her sexually. And her unforgiveness had brought this arthritic condition on. It's not the only cause, but it can be a significant one. Through some counseling and some ministry, she was totally healed once she forgave her father, who had since passed away. A few months later, that visiting speaker was back again in that town and was walking down the street and saw this woman being helped into the car and found her all gnarled up with arthritis again. And said to her, said hello and said, "I see that you've got your arthritis back, but you were healed." And she said, "I just decided I couldn't forgive him. What he did was so bad." I mean, the man's dead. He is unaffected by what has been going on. We have to choose freedom, forgiveness, or repayment. Not good. Why do we choose forgiveness? Well, not forgiving is like taking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. We need a plan. But unforgiveness divides. There's a lot of offended people in church, and there shouldn't be. They need to grow up and get over it. There are 7 steps to forgiving others. Firstly, we have to choose. Then we ask God to forgive them. And then we ask God to forgive you for holding unforgiveness or resentment or bitterness. And even though He doesn't need it, fourthly, we forgive God for allowing that person to hurt us. We sometimes need to be able to say that. Fifth, we vent any stored up emotions. Go cut some firewood. Go for a walk in a rainstorm or whatever. Just don't get hit by the lightning. Sixth, request God to pour out His healing over your wounds, because you have them. And then ask God to bless the offender in every way possible. I've ministered this area of forgiveness to many people. And some of them were off all their medication within a matter of days, as their doctor supervised that, because the forgiveness that they chose released them from the bondage they'd put themselves in. Many people who suffer from depression will have issues of unforgiveness to deal with prior to their depression being overcome. I've run this past psychiatrists and doctors in several countries, that if people would learn to forgive, probably about half to 2/3 of our mental institutions could be emptied. And I'm amazed that the number of these specialists in this area who've said that's about right. So we need to consider Jesus' example when he said, "Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing." And that's the issue. They don't realize that their hurt, the pain they've inflicted on you, and God allowed it for you to grow and to forgive. God didn't cause it. That's a different issue. So you need to take some action now. Think of someone you may need to forgive. Maybe you need to forgive yourself. And just pause and quietly pray for that person and be specific and be honest. And say, "I forgive." Name them for whatever they did. You see, forgiveness brings blessing. Blessed are those whose transgressions are forgiven, whose sins are covered. So please, go bless someone this week and forgive them.